Welcome back. I am John P. Today we're going to be talking about Rolex watches in the current state of the watch market. As you know, especially if you've been watching this channel and other channels out there about watches, the watch industry has gone up quite considerably over the last few years, but then has come tumbling down just as quickly, actually a lot more quickly, within the last about 6 months. Obviously, there's things like the equities markets and so many other factors outside of the watch world. But what we have today, or up until today, were Rolex watches at prices that we haven't seen in years, along with Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and Richard Mille watches. These watches all came tumbling down. And now today, I am here to share with you some interesting news about particularly the Rolex watches, as well as what I'm seeing from other collectors, as well as dealers, some interesting trends and how you can use some of these trends to maybe buy the watch that you've been waiting on the fence for. Before we do that, on my wrist today, I have my vintage Rolex 1016 Explorer from 1972 with a frog foot dial. If you watch the channel, you know that I really do love and enjoy vintage watches, so I do have a vintage Rolex on the wrist today. And do not forget to check out delraywatch.com, where, full disclosure, we don't have a lot of Rolex watches in stock. That's by design, because we mostly focus on everything that all the other dealers really don't focus on, right? The Gerard Perregaux, but we also do carry, some other more popular brands as well. delraywatch.com. So, what's going on with Rolex today? Well, interestingly enough, I am hearing from so many collectors, and I'm seeing it when they call in. Collectors call in Delray Watch. We go through the call logs. We look. We see what we're being offered on the email. Collectors are picking up watches from the boutiques, from the authorized dealers. They're getting the Rolex watches. Now, before you get too excited, this isn't happening for Daytonas. Daytonas are still very coveted, right? It's Rolex's baby, if you will. Datejust, they'll pump those out, different versions of subs over the years, but really that Daytona is something special from Rolex. People like to think of the sub, but the Daytona is really the creme de la creme, if you will, from Rolex. So they're not pumping those out, but I'm getting so many calls from collectors. Hey, I just picked up this Datejust with this motif dial, with this palm dial, with these certain dials, and even sometimes we've turned them down, especially if they are worn and not unworn, just because, the demand is not there on the secondary market where it once was. Now, this is exciting because this means that for the collectors that have been leaving in the comments on this channel for years, oh, I would buy this watch if I just got the call from the dealer. Well, you might actually get a call, probably not if you're in New York City, for example, or a very prime market for that kind of a thing, where maybe the economic status, if it's more of an international city, maybe it's not as bad as a place where they may be hit a little bit harder. That might not be the case, but you could probably walk into a smaller authorized dealer and get something that you might want. Maybe not a Daytona, maybe not a sub, but a current gen Datejust, which was unheard of a year ago, or a current gen OP, or something similar. The chances are pretty high. We're even getting people calling in with other sports models as well. Even the Starbucks version of the Submariner, the green and the black version. We're getting people calling in with these watches, and these are people that are saying time and time again, and we record this, it's in the messages, it's in the emails, that they don't have any spend with these dealers. They just got a call. And I think this does make sense, because even personally for myself, even just today, I received, now it's not Rolex, but they will carry Rolex as well. I received a call from an authorized dealer for a Patek Philippe in a boutique, and I don't have any spend at all with that Patek Philippe boutique. But interestingly enough, they were calling to follow up on a watch that I expressed interest in over maybe 7 months ago, at least by this point. And they wanted to see if I still wanted the watch. And I thought that truly was not only phenomenal for them to do that. They didn't know who I was, by the way. They didn't know that I make videos like this. But great customer service. But in addition, we're seeing the tides change a little bit more and going in the direction of collectors that just showed a little bit of passion when they walked in the door, maybe getting calls, maybe offered the watches that they want. Now, I wouldn't go knocking on, a Patek Philippe boutique and expecting some version of an Nautilus or some hot watch like that. Probably not. Or, once again, the Daytona scenario, but maybe something on the edges and, build that relationship with the boutique, with the authorized dealer. And I think that's very exciting. But additionally, for one of these watches that were, increased in demand over the last couple of years, think some of the more interesting Datejust 41s, think maybe some of the sports models like the different Yachtmasters and things. Yeah, nice, cool watches, but not the most in demand, but still, these watches were in demand the last few years. You could probably get one of those right now if you tried very hard from some authorized dealer somewhere, because they are receiving the shipments. Just don't expect to be able to call a dealer and sell it for more than retail necessarily. Maybe you'll find one that will, but a lot of dealers are very hesitant right now because of this trend when they're even calling people like us who just walk in, happen chance, and get a call from a boutique that sells, watches to some of the highest accounts with the largest spending, this particular boutique. So I thought it was interesting, but I am excited for us collectors, for people out there for the last few years that said, hey, I really want to buy this watch at retail. I don't want to buy the gray market secondhand. Now I think we might be getting there, especially with Rolex. Now, Audemars Piguet is a little bit different, right? Because they don't, at least in the United States, in a lot of markets, they've pulled back authorized dealers. They own the boutiques. So they are a little bit different in that regard. They have, a nationwide, if you will, really an international database of collectors, so they can kind of shift around inventory a little bit different to where the watches are actually sold to the authorized dealer. And Rolex are, at least in the majority of the world, with like one exception, all the Rolex authorized dealers, they're boutiques, but they're third parties that are running the boutiques. So something interesting to keep in mind is some of these scenarios are more international when we're talking about, hey, are they going to call you? And some of these scenarios are more localized. So try to find localized, but I think now could be the time. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Please do not forget to thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I do appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram, The Real John P, and TikTok, The Real John P. Thanks, guys. You've been chatting with John P.